It's been about a month since Sound of Freedom premiered at the domestic box office, and since then it's actually maintained a spot within the top 10 list at the box office and really doesn't have any signs of slowing down. And in fact, it's actually going to be having an international release coming up in the near future, where you actually see it's going to be premiering in Australia, the UK, also it says in this article Central and South America. So it's been doing really good things right now at the box office, and a lot of the studios don't understand why. And in fact, it's actually been openly attacked by various media outlets since its premiere as being falsely labeled as a conspiracy ridden movie and things like that, which I don't understand why. I mean, it really is just a generic movie right now, but there's actually some people within Hollywood who are trying to understand it a little bit better. I don't know if it's genuine or if it's just trying to find more ammo to use against it, because everything they've been throwing at it seems to not work, and they just kind of want to take down this movie but don't seem to be able to do it. But let's jump into this article from the Hollywood Reporter talking about it. So it does go into the details about it, how it's from Angel Studios that produced this, and it's kind of like they more or less picked up the movie and then paid to distribute it and things like that. But it says one major legacy movie studio was so interested in the topic that it commissioned a survey on social media discourse and audience reactions. So yeah, there was a legacy studio that it's not naming in this, because at least I can understand why they wouldn't want to be named in such a thing, because they're actually paying a commissioner to try to figure out why is this movie so popular. So I guess there's a reason for that. I mean, if there's a movie that's doing good that you don't understand why, maybe you can see if it's something that you can emulate. Overall, the online consumer response to Sound of Freedom has been less about the movie itself and more rooted in conspiracy theories and ongoing political culture wars within the United States and the globe at large. Okay, I'll admit there's probably some element to that, but the thing is, it shouldn't be a culture war issue. I mean, saying you're against child trafficking should be a universal position, and the fact that it's actually become a political stance is frankly pretty disturbing. The idea that a lot of people within the US take that as a political stance, when like I said, that should be something we all agree with right here. Among other conclusions, right-leaning audiences dismiss criticism of the movie from the left and mainstream press as thoughts of pedophiles and Satanists and other malicious parties. Yes, because there is no reason why they're just saying people who are criticizing the movie are pedophiles. I mean, you got this article or this opinion piece from Bloomberg saying how it's just Hollywood tropes and don't pay attention to it. This is by Noah Berlansky, and if you actually look into this Noah Berlansky, he's a pro-pedophile activist. So yeah, these accusations by critics of this are completely unfounded, but I'm going to be fair and say there is some legitimate criticism. You could actually criticize this as just a movie saying like, oh, well, the acting didn't seem quite good, or there was problems with the cinematography and everything. I mean, that's fair, but that's not the criticism that we're actually getting from people who claim to be on the left. While left-leaning audiences found the movie's messaging tactic to be aligned with QAnon, racism, white supremacy, Christo-fascist, and anti-Semitic, and overall deceitful work, you might want to be careful about saying an anti-child trafficking movie is anti-Semitic. I mean, I don't think you want to make that argument. I mean, maybe they do. Maybe the Hollywood Reporter is a secretly anti-Semitic organization, or thinks that Jewish people are apparently all pedophiles. But I'm not making that claim. Apparently, the Hollywood Reporter is. I mean, maybe they should clarify that stance, because I think that's pretty bad right now. But again, like, that's not the argument they're making. They're not trying to talk about it as a film. They're just trying to say like, oh, the subject is a conspiracy theory or whatever. It's a QAnon conspiracy. I mean, calling a movie that's against child trafficking a QAnon conspiracy isn't diminishing what the movie is. It's just making QAnon sound more reasonable. Because if people don't know what this is, they're like, oh, I just heard QAnon was bad for a while. But I mean, if you're just saying it means they're against child trafficking, then maybe they are good or whatever. Maybe they have a point. It's like, that's the argument that's being made right now. And that's what's kind of people, or at least that's a takeaway a lot of people are getting from this. So maybe you might want to tone that down a little bit or something like that. And of course, this article does go into about the box office. It's made 164 million domestically, which has actually done more domestically than The Flash, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, Transformers Rise of the Beast. And we got that here from Box Office Mojo talking about what it is. And like, again, this is before its international release, because once that happens, you're going to see this number go up there, and the producers for this movie think it'll actually hit the $200 million domestic, which is quite frankly just remarkable for a movie of this budget. And then of course it just kind of talks about like the backstory and stuff like this. I think the only legitimate criticism they have had against this is saying like, oh, well, the events in the movie are exaggerated or whatever. And I think that's fair to have those type of criticisms about it. But again, I mean, is that really such a bad thing or whatever, given the subject matter of this movie? I mean, there's like, oh, they exaggerated the actual incidents that happened, because like that's literally every movie based off of true story. So I think that's really not a fair criticism for this, or unless you're just very critical over that type of thing in movies in general, which I don't think it is. But in all honesty, they say, like from that commission, that it's a lot of it's the political discourse, and that's why this movie is successful. And if you actually look at this map right here from the 2020 election, I mean, look at all the red area. This is the areas that they say is it's this movie's popular in and performing well in, and that's because it's an untapped market for Hollywood. A lot of the movies coming out of Hollywood now are just trying to cater to the people in their inner circles in this area, and then in this area, and then everything else they really either they don't care about or they're openly hostile towards. But Sound of Freedom is a movie that's basically about what should be traditional values, which is like to protect children. And this is something that resonates with basically everyone in this area, but apparently not in this area and not in this area for some reason, which is kind of sad to be honest, that they don't care about such a thing, or at least they're trying to avoid it for some reason. And I think if they Hollywood studios really wanted to take something away from Sound of Freedom, it's to make movies that cater more towards audiences in these areas that kind of fly over areas that they try to forget about and they don't actually care about, and are a lot of the times openly hostile against. I mean, I'm not saying you have to make a pro-America patriotic conservative movie or whatever. I mean, you can try to make something that actually has more universal values. I mean, that's what Hollywood used to do. I mean, there was the traditional like good versus evil story. I mean, and that's honestly what Sound of Freedom is. It's a good versus evil, a person who wants to protect children against child traffickers. I mean, that's something that we should all enjoy. I mean, you can look at that with like a lot of old classic movies. I mean, great ones. I mean, look at the first Star Wars movie. I mean, the George Lucas one in 77. I mean, it was literally a good versus evil story, a classic tale. I mean, and that's something that resonates with a wider audience. And honestly, if the media was more honest about this movie, I'd say it would have more wide appeal amongst left-leaning people too, and it wouldn't be such a political thing. But for some reason, the media wanted to make it political. Hollywood wanted to make it political because they don't want people on the left side of the aisle to actually see a movie that's raising awareness on how bad child trafficking is. I mean, the reason for that is, I don't know. I mean, let me know in the comments why you think Hollywood doesn't want people to know about child trafficking. And if you like this video, make sure you click the like button, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with the latest news. Thank you.